All right, hello everyone. Welcome to the first Prem review of 2023. I said this was going to happen. The fucking football games, they're coming so fucking thick and so fucking fast. It's just going to be impossible until we get back to week to sort of do this in a timely fashion. Like, to put this in context, this is going to be one of 2 episodes of Prem Review. I'm recording this 4th of January. It goes back to Boxing Day, and like I've got like, I don't know, 7-8 pages of notes here, and that's not including the games from tonight and tomorrow. So, yeah, just a fucking mess. And, you know, obviously, it's always an accelerated schedule around this time period. We always pack out the festive period with loads of fucking games. But coming back from the World Cup and having to play catch-up, it's just sort of compounded that. And it's just like, fuck me. I'm going to be talking about games from Boxing Day. And by the time this video gets edited, it's going to be like, I don't know, like fucking 3-4 days even after the recording. So I'm going to blast through the Boxing Day games, because if you had a Boxing Day like I had a fucking Boxing Day, you won't even remember your Boxing Day. I was fucking wrecked. I was absolutely trolleyed. And watching the games and barely remember any of it. So I've got like some cursory notes for Boxing Day, and we'll go a bit more in depth after that. Also, as well, something that'll come up at some point, but I just want to say, when you're right, you're right. You know, I said having a World Cup bang slap in the middle of a fucking football season, a Premier League season, was going to have some potential impact on where the title went and who gets into Europe based on injuries. Now, obviously, there were a number of injuries before the World Cup, but during the World Cup, probably Arsenal got hardest hit, losing Gabriel Jesus to an injury that's going to keep him out until, they say, February, March. And, you know, I think he was one of the best signings of the season and was doing great work for Arsenal, who were top of the league going into the World Cup break. And it's going to be interesting to see how they can pivot. Like, so far, so good, but we'll get to that in a moment. So look, Boxing Day, as I recall, there were a couple of things worth talking about, and then, like I said, we'll get into the more in-depth stuff. So let's just quickly get Brentford, Tottenham out the way. Tottenham's sort of dreadful run over the festive period is going to be a talking point a little bit later on. But Brentford, it would be very easy for Brentford to kind of have gone off the rails coming back from the break in the World Cup. Brentford have had, you know, speculation about their manager, whether or not, you know, Frank's going to get fired. That was doing the rounds. I even joked about it in a previous Prem review. I saw some Brentford fans unironically suggesting Steve Bruce should be brought in, like, for fuck's sake, put down the pipe. They've had some pretty disappointing results. They were falling into that lower end of mid-table. And obviously Ivan Toney, who I think is now like one of like 4 England strikers to have got like more than 20 goals in a calendar year or something, having a really good year. And remember, only 26 as well, by the way, still got lots of time to develop, but obviously he's been hit with these betting charges. I think he's now up to 262, it might even be more, 262 betting infractions, which on the day of recording this is when Ivan Toney is meant to respond to the FA. And I don't know which way this is going to go, honestly, with Brentford. I think they need to cobble together as many points as possible while they still have him. I think his suspension's going to be lengthy, but as I said, we'll talk about that a little bit later on. But anyway, so they're taking on Tottenham at home. They got a 2-2 result there, you know, which, by the way, they were 2-0 up. So you could make an argument that Brentford should have held on for a little bit more, especially against a beleaguered Tottenham. This was a Tottenham as well, where I think before this game, Conte had suggested he was going to leave out all of the people that were coming back from the World Cup. He for some reason, just said that ahead of the game. You know, that wasn't the reality. It was a weird thing to say. Conte's been in a bit of a sulk lately. We'll get to that. His contract's coming up, I think. And also Tottenham need to back him with some money. But this was, I thought, a solid result for Brentford. Well done on Tottenham on yet another comeback, having to come back, conceding the first goal in all of their games, all of the time. In the end, I think it was a good game, and Brentford good value for a point. Tottenham good value for a point. Nothing too exciting there, but later on the context will be important. I watched Newcastle demolish Leicester away from home. You know, we were 2-0 up after like 8 minutes. It weren't even 10. And Chris Wood even got a goal. Worst bit of business ever in Newcastle history, probably. I think it's like 4 goals in 34 appearances. I mean, don't get me wrong, we signed some dog shit defenders down the years, so that's a bit of hyperbole, but still, terrible signing. But anyway, even he got a goal, got his penalty. It was a terrible penalty, but, straight down the middle, but got it in. Joe Linton scored, so, the Christmas miracles are still coming thick and fast on Boxing Day. But, at the end of the day, it was a good result for Newcastle. Worth mentioning. Arsenal had their first test on Boxing Day. What they were going to do without Gabriel Jesus. Luckily for them, they were going up against a beleaguered West Ham, and they had to come back from 1-0 down. This is where you thought things were going to get rocky for Arsenal. This is a different Arsenal to the one that we first saw under Arteta, where they were lightweight and they didn't have that tenacity and that bite and that drive to go forward. And even without the likes of Jesus, they were able to put 3 goals past West Ham, and did it with obviously Nketiah getting on the score sheet. And we'll talk about Eddie in a little bit as well. And probably worth mentioning 2 of the results. We'll go to Merseyside. Everton lost to Wolves within the context of Fat Frank being on fraud watch. Very important because he's gone back and forth over the festive period, and Everton are in trouble, like I said they would be at the start of the season. That take is going to age very well, I think. Wolverhampton have obviously replaced the manager. I can never pronounce his name properly, but Lopetegui, a legend from Spain, was a player manager. He's come in to Wolves. It's a very tough job. They were bottom of the table, I think, when he came in. Really been struggling to score goals. And they've responded well to his appointment. I got to just say that right out from the get-go. They look very, very different, Wolves. They are fighting for everything. There is a new competitive edge there. They still can't fucking score. They still have been super unlucky in terms of, with the issue they've got with strikers. They brought Costa in. I dreamed of Costa being good, but he just isn't. He's not Prem level, unfortunately. But, it was Ait Nouri got a 95th minute winner against Everton, and I thought Wolves were good value for this. And, of course, obviously, Liverpool, their rivals in red, a 3-1 against Villa. Villa obviously are under the new boss Unai Emery now. I thought he was done a bit dirty by Arsenal, honestly. I do like him as a gaffer. And everyone was like, okay, well, Liverpool are back in the hunt to get into that top 4. Spoiler, that's a fugazi. That's not really happening. So anyway, that's it. I'm not going to focus on Boxing Day anymore. Instead, let's jump across to what started happening once we got to the other side of New Year. I want to talk about City versus Everton. This is where I thought maybe Fat Frank was going to redeem himself a little bit, but that's not how it's gone at all. He decided he was going to put in a very negative, very defensive, counter-attacking lineup against City, which, by the way, spoiler, if you're Everton, that makes sense. One of the components that really fucking hurt them against Wolves was that Connor Cody obviously couldn't play because he's technically on loan. I think they are going to make an opponent signing. They want to. He's been brilliant for Everton. And so he couldn't play, and so they lacked a bit of defensive organisation at the back. And he's just a good individual player, a good man marker, very good positionally. He's who you need in a back 4. Anyway, so they were looking to counter against City. Now, City, I've said this, City are unbelievable going forward. I'm feeling comfortable now saying that Arsenal might be the best footballing team in the league in terms of attack. And the thing with City, they're going to ship goals. I think they're not quite there for me defensively like they've been in past seasons. And so this is where you're going to see them drop points. And it was 1-1, in terms of, you're on the road to City, you're Everton, I think they were 4th from bottom when they went there. You're expected to get battered 4-0, 5-0, right? Like, it's that simple. So Frank got it right tactically. You don't always fucking say that about Lampard. I think he's a bit of a melt when it comes to tactics. But this was the right way to set up, and I thought, again, Iwobi had a really solid game in terms of being the linchpin in that counter-attacking setup. What was really cool to see was they decided to go man-on-man with Haaland. Now, Haaland obviously has broken all the records, fastest ever striker at 20 goals. He's on course for the Golden Boot. Did anyone ever doubt about it apart from that fucking cunt, that Chelsea fan or whatever the fuck. Yeah, no, of course not. He's like fucking, he's just a legit player. Like, it doesn't, all that stuff about Bundesliga being a farmers league doesn't matter. You could always see his quality in his class. But what I thought was interesting with Everton this time around is they put Ben Godfrey on him. And Ben Godfrey, like, not a name I've talked about a lot on the Prem reviews, right? Like, Ben Godfrey is somebody that you know, probably don't associate with good defending. Him and Haaland had a fucking battle this game that was like some old school Premier League shit. It was like Martin fucking Keown, Ruud van Nistelrooy shit, you know what I mean? And it was great to see because Godfrey was up for it, man. Everton are fucked, but man, this was like one of those results where you go, what a great individual performance, like hats off to this dude. And Haaland got frustrated in this game and ended up picking up a silly yellow card from just a needless tackle, which, you know, City fans were cheering it on. It's like, no, brother, if you're a striker, and you can see you've got a man marker on, you got to keep your head and not get a yellow card because you're one accidental flailing arm away from being off the pitch. And if Haaland gets suspended, the context of that broadly over the course of a season is really bad. So City fans cheering him on for like pointless slide tackles where you're absolutely going to get booked. A slide tackle from behind in a meaningless ball, like you know, you can say, oh, great effort, great commitment, but actually very silly and shows a little bit of his immaturity. So I was fascinated by this battle. They highlighted it on Match of the Day, so some of you might have seen it, but it was like really interesting to see how Haaland coped with the man-for-man thing, and honestly didn't have like a mega game by his standards. You know, they were looking for him, he was making the runs. Godfrey did a decent enough job, and then you have to start wondering, well, he got pocketed by Liverpool, you know, when they played 2 times, if you include the Community Shield, and this is probably the way forward to dealing with Haaland. Like, you're gonna have to find someone that is going to be willing, like, basically just run with him all day, and it's going to be hard. It's going to, you know, it might not even be your best defender that does it, but you need someone who's going to be fit and strong and physical. And yeah, Godfrey did a fantastic job. Obviously, Haaland still got a goal this game. That's like 21 goals in the Prem already this season. We're not even at the halfway point, so that's insane. As I said, Golden Boot guaranteed at this point. But yeah, just overall in terms of this game, like I say, I give full credit to Frank Lampard. It was an outrageous goal from Gray, where he stumbled first and then just hit an absolute perler into the top corner. It's, you know, I like Damari Gray. I remember him. I've seen him play in person. He's part of the Birmingham alumni. By the way, go look that up. Look at all the fucking players Birmingham have had that have come through Birmingham and ended up going on to bigger and better things. Well, better things, maybe not bigger all the time, but you know, I always thought he was a solid player. I always rated him, but you know, he never quite scale the heights of the promise. Like, it's always different when you're looking at players in the Championship, I guess. But anyway, an absolute perler of a goal. Everton are not going to have that every game, so City fans are going to be like, oh, it was lucky, whatever the fuck. But they set up the right way to neutralise as much of City as they could. You know, 2 banks of fucking players that you got to break down. Your best strikers get an absolute man-to-man, physically marked, and they're looking to break and hit you on the counter. So what are you going to do? At the end of the day, I'll criticise Pep. I don't always do that. I love Pep. Like, as simple as that. I think he's fantastic. I've never been one of those guys who bought the whole bald fraud meme and all of that stuff. I loved him as a player. I love him as a gaffer. But what I'll say here is, I thought he left it late. I thought he left it late to make changes. 87th minute substitutes in a game like that. You need to be able to switch it up. If and Everton are susceptible. Like, you've got to know that. You've got to know they're susceptible to any sort of change. Like, so he made it easy on Frank, I suppose, in that sense. But overall, 1-1 draw. I think that's great. Smash and grab for Everton. They should have been able to build on it, as we'll get to. Turns out they fucking didn't. Then Arsenal-Brighton. So again, keep in mind, we've already had them with the 3-1 win over West Ham on Boxing Day. Brighton, a very different prospect right now. You know, this is a pro-Brighton podcast. Gabriel Jesus is still injured. As I said, he's out. But I want to give credit to Nketiah. Now, Nketiah, there was lots of talk about him leaving. He was linked with Newcastle, I think, in some of the tabloids, but there was talk about him leaving, maybe not renewing the contract and looking to get a move. I didn't know how Arsenal were going to do. It was the worst injury Arsenal could have got, losing Jesus. I mean, no question about it. But Eddie Nketiah has done something I didn't think he was capable of doing, and that is he's again playing this almost like hold up number 9 tip of the spear formation. Because when you look at how Arsenal's set up, it's like they've got Partey in a, kind of holding position. He's always just sitting in front of that back four. He's got a range of passing on him. As I said, he's like a budget Paul Scholes, and increasingly every day you can shave a letter off the word budget. To probably at budge at the moment. He's got a fantastic range of passing. He can spray passes all over the park, sits in front of the back four, good in a tackle, very good positional awareness, doing a fantastic job. One of the unsung heroes in the Arsenal lineup. And why? Because you got Martinelli out on the left, you got Saka out on the right, you got Odegaard going through the middle. Now think about this. Odegaard, 7 goals. Martinelli, 7 goals. Saka, 7 goals. Like, it's ridiculous that they're scoring these goals from wide positions. They're scoring goals through the centre of the park just with the midfield. And because the way the system is set up with Partey in with that protecting anchor role, and obviously their striker, Jesus, and now Nketiah playing as a number 9, what my concern was Nketiah going to be able to hold up the ball? Was he going to be able to muscle out some of these big Premier League defenders? Was he going to be able to have the guile and cunning to bring in the midfield? Well, yeah, like they've not missed a beat, and they didn't here. Nketiah, I think, has scored in the 2 games, since he come in for Jesus. He got a goal against West Ham, goal here. I just think, like, when you look at how they're set up to play, it's a very different prospect to a Liverpool. It's a very different prospect to a City. Like I said, I think they're the best attacking football side in the league. I think they actually look better than City for me, and I do not say that lightly as a City fan. So I mean, they've just been doing incredible in terms, and full credit to Nketiah. He's really taken his opportunity now. Obviously, when Jesus comes back, he's going to be out of the team again, but they might look to ease Jesus back in after a long injury, and if he keeps scoring, there are no guarantees. Arteta obviously likes him as a player and has backed him, and the team has wanted to keep him. So, I mean, just credit where it's due there. In fact, I did want to say as well, the Arsenal's, their 4th goal in this game was like watching the old Arsenal Invincibles. If you ever had the pleasure to watch that team play, they went box to box. The move starts in their box. It's 1 pass, 2 pass, flood, counter-attack, no fear. And this game, like, I know 4-2 sounds like it was, like, close, but Arsenal were really kind of out of sight. They gave up 2 sloppy goals in reality, and then there was a 3rd Brighton goal disallowed. They're still a little bit sus at the back, but at the end of the day, going forward, they're lights out. And if you watch that 4th goal, it's like just vintage Arsenal. Wenger was in the stands, I think, for this one as well, so you got to see it. Let's talk a little bit about Brighton, the young Irish lad that's coming through, Ferguson. Watch out for him. He scored against Arsenal here. A rare mistake from Saliba, but he just took his chance super well. He's big. He's physical. He's up for it. He's not intimidated by these centre backs. And I think he's one of those players where if you try and get close to him and you try and touch him, he's going to fucking touch your back. I always love strikers like that, like, hero of mine sort of growing up, like Mark Hughes. Like he was a guy who, like, all right, you want to have a fucking physical tussle? I'll fucking kick you and elbow you all day, mate. And I really like the physicality that Ferguson put himself about. And I think he's going to be a big player for Brighton. I actually think he's got a bright future. There you go. Not my best work. The other thing as well, coming out of the World Cup, McAllister. Obviously, Argentina won. Messi gets his World Cup. He's probably the GOAT now, although, I'm a Maradona for life. I ride or die with Maradona, so fuck everyone else. But the whole thing with McAllister was weird because McAllister had a pretty good World Cup. I mean, he really showed himself, like, should I be in Brighton? Should I not be in a bigger team? And he's had some unbelievable performances this season for Brighton, and he continues to play really well. And guess what? There was an interview where they were like, "Oh, so you're probably going to leave Brighton now? You must have lots of people interested in signing you." And when players say shit like this, you know what's going on. He said, "I'm in no rush to leave." No, I'm fully committed to Brighton. I love it in Brighton, mate. I'm in no rush. What does that mean? Like, I'll get through the transfer window and then fucking see you. I think Brighton, like, will really want to keep him, but I just don't think it's viable. They're still like a small market team, so it's gonna be. It could, the transfer window is still going to be trundling along for a while. Yeah, it's not implausible that a big money move could come in and he could leave. He definitely caught the eye at the World Cup, but I think Brighton, if they want to have that season where they flirt with getting into Europe, it's totally possible. By the way, in the state of play that the league's in right now. They need to keep him, and obviously just Matoma I thought was brilliant for Brighton, and he's been brilliant over this festive period. Super unlucky. He had a goal disallowed because of a fucking trailing leg, like VAR, like come on. He was running backwards, and as he's flicked his leg up to run backwards, all of him is offside apart from his toe on the trailing leg while he's running back, and they've had a really good goal disallowed. It would have made it 4-3, would have set up a blockbuster finish. It's technically right. It's technically the right decision, but this is the problem. Like VAR, they've had so many decisions where, well, I mean, first of all, they've had so many moments where it hasn't gone to VAR when it should, because the ref's just been like, nah, I don't need it, right? We've had that this season. We've had objectively, like, just nonsensical interpretations of VAR from referees. And now we have things like this where it's like, it's so technically correct. I don't think fans respect that. I think when it's too correct, like, it's like to the millimeter, to the pixel, like, nah. So it was another poor advertisement for VAR, honestly, that goal was disallowed and we were denied a really good finish. And I feel sorry for Matoma. I think he's been a real good unsung hero, honestly, for Brighton. But anyway, great game. Arsenal looking really, really good now. This is not a joke. They are genuine title contenders. I said by about the halfway season we'd have a better idea. Here we are. They're in it. For real. Like, I mean, you'd probably have to say now, favourites. Liverpool are nowhere. Tottenham can't do it. Chelsea are in mid-fucking table with an injury crisis. City are dropping points. It's got to be Arsenal, right? If they're not the favourites, Anyway, United. What did I tell you about Ten Hag? Wonderful. What a manager. What a guy. Bald, not fraud by any stretch. He has been brilliant since he's come in. And one of the things that he did here, they played Wolves. They got a 1-0 win. I want to highlight a little thing that he did. When he first came in, he said one of the problems was standards. There was no standards at the club anymore. Now, under Solskjaer, things had slipped back to like the 90s almost, where it's like, we've lost the game, doesn't matter, let's go out and have a drink. Like, you're a fucking Premier League footballer, But Ollie was just that kind of guy. He's a personable, nice dude, former player, And so there were players taking the piss. And look, I'm a Newcastle fan. I remember when the great Bobby Robson, rest his fucking soul, he had a team full of young players that used to take the piss. I was living up in Newcastle at the time. I used to go down to the nightclubs. There was one called C. You used to go down there, and you would see the players in there on a fucking, Friday night. You're looking up and see players in the VIP fucking lounge getting, they're drinking and they're doing other things. Women in there. So they took the piss out of that beautiful old man. And Bobby was just too nice a guy. He was just never going to discipline people. So, listen, I fucking totally respect it that Ten Hag, the first thing he said, we're going to get back to basics. We're a professional football team. There will be no nonsense here. And some players couldn't hack it, right? Like, obviously, Ranić wasn't fucking hands-on neither. So he's come in, and let me just tell you how much of a fucking G, dare I say a top G, controversial, but here's how much of a fucking G he actually is. So their form player right now, obviously, is Rashford. Rashford's he's probably at career best form, if we're just being real about it. And he slept through a meeting. He was 20 minutes late because, he slept in. And even though he's their form player, Ten Hag said, right, you're on the bench. Fuck you. You don't start. We don't do that here. We're a professional team. You get your shit together. You're a grown man. He brought him on at half-time, and Rashford looked really sharp and really up for it and scored the winning goal. But at the end of it, Rashford was interviewed, and he said it was unacceptable. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have done it. These things happen, but it's no excuse. They laughed it off, and they all got on with it. Now, contrast that to the bullshit from fucking Ronaldo all season, and how he's just been a black cloud over United. Who would have thought that would be the case? This badge kisser, this man who says he loves United, had a special relationship with the fans, blah, 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 all of that bullshit. That fucking prick ran all over that club, made fools of the fans with his behaviour and antics, and then with that Piers Morgan interview. And that's a guy who, you know, kisses the badge and says he loves it. And Ten Hag didn't put up with this bullshit. And so you look at it, you know, he's dropped Maguire. No reputations are going to save you with this guy. He's got rid of Ronaldo, even at losing money for the club because he knows he was a toxic asset. And he's telling these young United players, if you want to play at United and represent this club, it doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter. You've had a good World Cup. You're our top fucking goal scorer. Does not matter. Turn up on time, work hard, or get the fuck out. And that's like a throwback to Sir Alex Ferguson. Sir Alex Ferguson famously did not... I mean, if you're a United fan, you know what I'm talking about. He threw a boot at Beckham's head. He fucking told Jaap Stam you're out the fucking door. He doesn't give a fuck. He didn't give a fuck because he knew... as long as you stick to the system and do what you're told and put in the graft, we'll always have a fucking winning chance. And with the players that we've got and the way we do things and the culture at the club. And he just didn't give a fuck if he saw anyone getting too big for the britches, out the fucking door. He did it with Keano, for fuck's sake. So to see Ten Hag come back and do that, I think that bodes unbelievably well for United. Now look, counterpoint to the argument, obviously, if they get a draw, which eminently possible at the moment, the United squad is nowhere near as good as you might think it is. I've talked about this. They've got problems. We'll highlight one little thing that's gone right for them of late, and it again revolves around Slabhead. But the bottom line is they won. He held players accountable to that standard, and it's really starting to work. Casemiro, I don't need that. You know, listen, I think we did say earlier you could probably pull up the tape. You guys, in your own time, you can look it up. I said I don't think Casemiro was a Ten Hag style player. Now, maybe that's true, maybe that's not. But I will tell you this, he's been a hell of a signing for United. I mean, what he's done in terms of shoring up that midfield, full commitment, non-stop, even chipped in with some really big assists and really big goals. And I just think, yeah, Casemiro has been one of those things that's really been transformative for United. Him and Fernandes as well seem to be, you know, having a bit more of an understanding in there. You got Anthony. I don't think Rashford is the answer long term. I know a lot of people love him. I think generally it's for the stuff he does outside of football, school dinners. He's a great lad. I really think he's a great ambassador for the sport. But PSG want him again. There's talk about him maybe going again. And honestly, I think if United can get money for him, and I think it's a deal for everybody. I think you take that and you know, there's talk about the Glazers not wanting to back Ten Hag with money. And they've missed out on some signings, missed out on Gapco, and there's a few other rumblings going on. But at the end of the day, there's a lot of mediocre players at United. I mean, for real, like if Ten Hag finishes top 4 here, what an achievement. Like, you'd have to absolutely put him up there as a potential manager of the year. You know, so far for me, the front runners are probably like Arteta and Eddie Howe, but unquestionably, if Ten Hag gets them back into the top 4, he's in the mix. Especially with all the shit he's had to deal with. So I'm just going to say, because I'm talking about mediocrity, I'll just tick this off. I don't think Martial... I saw some people saying, like, oh, Martial's going to get us through and rizzle. Nah, he's not. He's not going to do any of that. He's shit. He's shit. I'm calling it, okay? He's shit. Misses too many chances. You offload him. That's a no-brainer. Garnacho... I don't know. Jury's out for me. I don't think he's going to make the grade. You know, he's young. He's had limited chances, but it's a high standard at United, and I have high standards for United because I remember, you know, I've seen what they can produce coming through the youth ranks. Rashford's in his best form, as I said, but I don't think he's he's a long-term striking solution. So I think Ten Hag needs to be back with money. I know the Glazers don't want to do that, but he's got them defensively solid. He's dropped Maguire. I know Maguire was out with illness. He can't bring Maguire back. Since Maguire has been dropped, Varane has looked imperious. Like, I think they've conceded like 2 goals or something. Like, since Maguire was dropped, like, it's not even up for debate no more. He's a fucking clown. And obviously, if he's your centre-half partner, what the fuck do you do? What do you do? You've just got to... you're always looking over your shoulder. Like, Harry's cut out of position. Again, he makes fools of you all. Varane's brilliant. And obviously, when you consider he's come straight back from the World Cup, you know, all the way to the final, straight back into the lineup, looking great, doesn't look tired, looks, you know, people were worried about his fitness and how robust he was going to be. Looks brilliant. And so, yeah, other than the lack of quality in terms of goal-scoring threat, which Ten Hag has mitigated by being defensively solid and compact in the midfield, I think United are looking great this season and other people are slipping off. I really think they've got a chance now. I said they could go down. We're back when Ten Hag took over the job, and Maguire was playing week in, week out, and he hadn't made a couple of signings. I think it was pre-Casemiro, pre-Anthony. I said they could finish as low as 8th or 9th, but now I'm a believer that it's 4th or 5th for them. Fulham beat Southampton 2-1. I wanted to say this because, again, I'm going to do a halfway point of the season review of my predictions to see where we're all at. I said Southampton, for me, were another one of those where I think I had them 4th from bottom, and Southampton lost again 2-1. I think they're fucked. I think they're the new relegation favourites for me. I think even more than Forest, who've spent loads of money, biggest squad in the Prem. Sure, Bournemouth, obviously with O'Neill, they're having a bit of a backslide now, but maybe they could still do it. Everton, for me, I think are terrible. I still think they're terrible. It's not going to change, you know. But Southampton, for me, are absolute trash. And I wanted to highlight some stats. Obviously, they lose to Fulham 2-1. They've got this inexperienced manager, Nathan Jones, who every time I've listened to him do an interview, if I was a Southampton fan, my fucking heart would drop because everything he says is nonsense. When he got tuned up on his debut, yeah, I've learnt a lot from that. Don't tell me that, mate. Like, fucking hell. Just get, you know. Well, what he said after this, after they lose to Fulham, he said, I thought we were really good. You know, all right, sound, I guess. Obviously, it's a big step up. You know, he's come from Luton. He's a Welsh boy. You know, want him to succeed. Do one for the rest of us, like, you know. But at the end of the day, nah, he's been fed to the fucking lions here, mate. This is like, it was already a poison chalice job. Their squad is just not good enough in terms of putting the ball in the back of the net, and not good enough defensively either. They've got both problems, right? So here's some stats for you. Their top scorer, Shea Adams, who, by the way, I couldn't even believe he got this many goals. Because every time I see Shea Adams, he's missing. Like, straight up. Like, every time I think of Shea Adams, it's like he's clean through and he's put it fucking 10 foot wide. But anyway, he's got 8 goals. But that's with a 23% goal conversion. 23%, right? So, you know, he's getting 4, you know, if he gets 4 chances a game, he might get you a goal. Not good enough in the Prem. And he just, I don't know. He snatches at chances. He's not very confident on the ball. He can't really beat a man. He's not great in the air. I mean, like, he can't be your top man. And when you consider that James Ward-Prowse, the free kick master, is the next one down, right, in terms of putting it in the net, with 4 goals this season. Remember, we're at the halfway point of the season, and he's got a 31% goal conversion from shots. You know, that's from shots attempted, obviously. That's just dreadful. Dreadful. And then after that, there's no one above 2. So it's a huge drop-off. But you combine that with the fact they have now conceded 32 goals in 17 games. They're fucked. You can't concede 2 goals a game on average and win in the Premier League. I think Southampton are fucking done. I said Fulham were going to be all right. Fulham were 7th at the time of sitting down to record that. And so, you know, at the end of the day, Fulham are fine. They're staying up. They look good. Mitrovic has answered his critics, blah, blah, blah. All the stuff, good signings, and all of that stuff. We can talk about that later. Southampton have got real problems. And this is where they probably had, I hate to say it because I hate jobs for the old boys, instead of thinking ahead, they probably had to tap up Nathan Jones, say to Nathan Jones, look, we're going to do a big rebuild if we stay up. Are you interested in the job? Firm handshakes all round. Okay. He knows he's at Luton, whatever, doing his thing, knowing he's got that offer if they don't get relegated. Then they have to go, and this is like, it's a Big Sam job or something like that. I fucking hate Allardyce, right? But, you know, at the end of the day, it's bring in someone with Premier experience that knows how to make players spoil games and grind out results, finish 4th from fucking bottom, stay in the league, everyone cheering on the last day of the season, invading the pitch, and then you ride off into the sunset. Everyone thinks you're a good manager, but you're not, you're garbage. It had to be that. It had to be that. But it's not going to be that. Instead, now they've brought in a guy to do a fucking rebuild. And the problem you've got with that is he's not man enough for the job. He can't do it. Such a huge step up. And yeah, he just sounds like he's out of his depth every time he does an interview afterwards. Well, I thought we were really good. Could have won a game. Could have got a result then, you know. So, whatever. Bournemouth lost to Palace 2-0. As I said, Bournemouth have had a backslide. This game was notable because it was funny. Michael B. Jordan, the actor, has come in as part of a new ownership consortium. And so this was like their first home game since that happened. So he was there. He was in the stands for this. And they paraded him around the pitch, you know. And so, you know, you know, where's Wallace? Where's Wallace String? Well, he's at the fucking Vitality Stadium. That's what's mad about it. But anyway, he wouldn't have liked what he saw here. This was probably one of the worst performances Bournemouth have put in all season. This is like some Scotty Parker throwback, you know. As I said, I think they've been good under O'Neill, but they're having that backside now. The reality's setting in. The reality is setting in. It's the Prem. It's a fucking marathon. You're in for the long haul. They basically lost to 2 set pieces here from Palace. As I said, Crystal Palace are benchmark mediocrity. They'll finish about 12th. They're just, you know, mid-table, super mid-table team. They win one week, they lose the next. You know, they're just a coin toss thing. You just, boom, they're just going to get through the season. They're never going to be in danger, but they're never going to threaten Europe either. They're just there. Win some, you lose some. But yeah, Bournemouth lost to 2 set pieces, both of them corners. Going forward, they were so bad, their XG was 0.49. Right? And when you couple that with the fact that they're not really a goal threat, but also they've conceded 11 goals from corners this season, most in the league. You can't defend from set pieces and you're not great going forward. That does not bode well. Bournemouth will get sucked back into it. There's no doubt about it. But I got to give credit to their fans. I fucking loved it. There was it was like in the 70th minute or something. They managed a fucking shot. The fans were cheering, "We've had a shot, we've had a shot, we've had a shot." So I mean, look, they're gonna die laughing for sure. But fuck me, that was probably the worst Bournemouth have played since Scott Parker left. Newcastle leads. It's a 0-0 draw. I'm only really adding it because it's Newcastle. But this was a chance. Newcastle could have gone second here. Do they have real title contending chops? Well, not for me. I've never believed in that. I don't even believe in top 4. I still think we're going to get found out over the course of the season. But I'll add, we're the best defensive team in the league. I've never been able to say that at any point in my lifetime. So I think we're legit the best defensive team in the league. Which you know, listen, I'll take that. I'll take that. I've seen Steve Howie. I've seen Darren Peacock. I've seen Alain Boomsong. I've seen Titus Bramble. I've seen John Beresford. I've seen Warren Barton. I've seen Philippe Albert. I've seen all these players try and defend. I'm not even bringing up Casapa or whatever the fuck he was called. I've seen things you wouldn't fucking believe in defence. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they had to hire a fucking trauma specialist for the fucking Newcastle keepers, you know what I mean? Shaka Hislop just in there every week, fucking bawling his eyes out. It was you know. So for us to be the best defensive team in the fucking league is just like unthinkable. So I'm in hog heaven anyway. If we finish 5th, I think that's a hell of a season. I would have bit your hand off for that at the start of the season, especially coming out with the Bruciers. But anyway, yeah, this was where the thinness of our squad matters, because Leeds are there for the taking. I think in general, I think we should be beating Leeds at home, but we had no Callum Wilson. Isak obviously got injured straight away. We haven't really had a chance to see him, and so that means Chris Wood starts. Now Chris Wood is fucking shit. One of the worst bits of business we've ever done in club history, no doubt. As I said, 4 goals in like 34 appearances since we signed him or something. Just garbage. Just a fucking donkey. I don't know why we paid 30 mil for him or whatever the fuck it was. Burnley laughing all the way to the bank on that one. Turns out they're going to just probably bounce back and be straight back in the Prem, spitting in our face over it. I don't get it. It was like such a mad panic signing, and he's just trash. He's just absolute trash. He has nothing about him. Too scared to shoot. Doesn't even hold the ball up well for a big guy. Like, he's built like fucking Dan Burn, but he just doesn't do anything. He's fucking shit. One thing I will say is we haven't had many terrible strikers at Newcastle in my lifetime. Not truly terrible strikers. Oh, I missed out Marcellinho from the defenders earlier. How can I forget that fucking night? We haven't had anyway. Strikers-wise, we've always done all right. We've always had a good eye for an attacking player. Chris Wood ain't it, and so when he starts and leading the line, you know, all right, we're going to fucking struggle today. But overall, I thought we're a defensive powerhouse, and so we're always in with a shout of winning games. Liverpool! Well, Liverpool. They're out of the running for fourth. This was just... I don't know. It's so confusing because Liverpool, they're Jekyll and Hyde at the moment. They unveiled the Gakpo signing here. He's going to play number 18. And you have to ask, like, are goals the fucking problem with this team? And yeah, maybe, like, they do lack a clinical edge. I've seen the memes. I saw a meme the other day where it was, like, someone facing a firing squad, and they said, like, any last requests? And he said, yeah, let Darwin Núñez take the shot. You know, I get it. He's not clinical, but he's going to create so many chances for himself that it doesn't really matter. He doesn't need to be, you know, Mr. Clinical. He's gonna get goals. He's a good signing. All memes and joking aside, he's mustard. But, you know, Salah's been a little bit off, hasn't he? You know, Mo Salah, he's been a bit off, hasn't he? And so maybe they do need another striker in there. I don't think they ever replaced Mane. I've talked about that on previous episodes. I think he gave them everything you want from a striker when you're playing in a pressing style. He fit. Used to always chase down his man, used to chase for every ball, and when he got chances, he was clinical. And they miss Mane. They miss Mane. It shows he's been irreplaceable this season. I would wager, like, if you were to look at it, and I couldn't pull the stat, but they're probably the team that's had the highest expected goals in lost games repeatedly this season. Like, I don't know how you would measure it, but they just dominate games and don't put it in the back of the net enough to win, you know, commensurate to what their defense is doing. And so they got out of jail with this one because Faze, who's like this fucking just, you know, reasonable defender, like not especially bad, he basically scored 2 own goals. Look, all of this aside, we know Liverpool have problems in defence, and we know they're not as cold and clinical up front as they used to be, and we know that, and maybe Gakpo's going to change that, and who knows. But the bottom line is it's about the midfield. I watched Jamie Carragher pop off. I think it might have been after this game, or it might have been after the Brentford game we're going to get to. But I watched Jamie Carragher pop off, and he was saying, like, they have to sign a midfielder in this this transfer window. And I absolutely 100% agree with them. If they don't, they're going to really struggle because, you know, Fabinho's fell off. He was dreadful here. Henderson is looking leggy and old, but still vital, just with what he does for the team. You know, Oxlade-Chamberlain's been playing, Milner's been in and out of the team, and they're trying to bring through other players that I just don't think are there yet or good enough. I know obviously Kate has been fucking playing a bit, and I think he's just a bust as a signing. So yeah, that's what they need. They might even need 2 midfielders. Their midfield's not getting any younger, and that, to me, like, when your midfield is dysfunctional, all the problems stem from that. You don't get enough chances going forward because they're not creating. And they're not creating because they're not getting possession, and they're not getting possession because they're not tackling and winning the ball back in midfield, and they're getting and not winning it when the ball's in transition and your opponents are running at you. And that means that they're not defending, they're not capable of winning the ball back because they're not able to get close to the players, and they're chasing shadows all game, and that puts pressure on the defence. And if you've got a bit of a leaky defence, you need to minimise how many chances the defence faces, because obviously if they're solid, it's fine. You know, bada bing, bada boom. But Liverpool ain't solid. You know, Trent's still getting a game, and he's getting assists going forward, and everyone's going, look how many assists he's got for a defender, and it's like, yeah, but what about your defence, dickhead? So yeah, I think Carragher's rightly identified it. I mean, this was a terrible performance where they were given a get out of jail card. They were able to basically get through that game just thanks to 2 own goals, which, guys, like, you know, it's fucking Liverpool, you know. I don't think they're going to get top 4. We'll obviously touch on that a bit more for the Brentford game. West Ham against Brentford. West Ham lost 2-0 here. Brentford with 2 goals against West Ham. And I'll say this, West Ham really fucked my overall predictions in the league. I couldn't imagine they were going to be this bad this season. The squad they have, you know, the experience in Moyes, the way they looked in the season before, this team should be challenging for Europe, not fending off relegation. There's no two ways about it. And they were dreadful against Brentford. I mean, just the same old story. You know, Bowen was just a fucking shadow of himself. Antonio, I don't even know where the fuck he is right now. Don't know what's going on. Rice was like the best on show, apparently. You know, everyone's always sucking off Rice. But at the end of the day, it's like, if my manager's telling me I'm a £150 million player, I should be individually influencing games in our favour. Just, you know, a few times a season. Rice ain't doing that for me. I'm sorry. I don't think he produces enough. And people go, but he's a defensive midfielder. He's meant to be a total midfielder. You know, he's not. I think he's one of the most, like, commensurate to the reality of how he plays. I think he's very overrated, frankly. Whatever, that's obviously a hot take, but that's where I'm at with Rice at the moment. I thought Benrahma was unlucky in this game. I like Benrahma. I think he's West Ham's kind of shining beacon. But, you know, it's just the fucking same old story. And honestly, I'm going to put fucking Moyes on fraud watch at this point. There's this weird little consistent storyline with Moyes where his teams fizzle out. He has them. He gets them disciplined. He makes some signings. They do okay. Then it just all starts to fade away, and you have to wonder, you know, what his future looks like. I don't think he's going to make it through the season if this continues. Like, this was a home game for West Ham against Brentford. Brentford were meant to be in all sorts of trouble before this. You know, their manager was meant to be on the chopping block again. I think that was nonsense. I can't believe that was real, but that's what people were saying. And, you know, they've absolutely just battered him in this game. I said here as well, this is where it gets interesting for the rest of the season. They've got some great players in the squad, Brentford. I think some of the signs have made a great... Mbomo, Wissa, me, you know, like, these guys have all fucking been stats monsters, you know, punching well above their weight, past the eye test, look committed to the club. And obviously Ivan Toney is the guy in the fucking centre of it all. You know, the guy who's he's guaranteed goals, he's guaranteed quality, he's gonna fucking really put himself about in the top end of the park. But anyway, he went off injured in this game, and I've got to say, you know, there's a chance, depending on how bad the injury is overall, there's a chance that maybe he could be out, and then he gets a suspension. You know, he gets a suspension, and suddenly Brentford are going to have to do the rest of the season without him, which would just be like, I don't know, it would be shocking. One of the things that was really surprising about the Liverpool loss to Brentford was obviously that Brentford did it without Toney, which shows that how good Brentford actually are. For me, good value, 7th in the table today, with results obviously to come that might influence that. But for me, they are very good value for a top half mid-table finish. Not good enough for Europe, but they're going to really go to the wire, I think. Missing Toney and him getting suspended, that's going to be a big problem. I think he will do a suspension. I think probably as well, Brentford don't have big club influence. I think Toney probably, like, if this injury is as long as what they're saying it's going to be, yeah, he's probably he could be out for the rest of the season, frankly, and that'll obviously have a big amount of influence. But overall, yep, I thought Brentford good value here. West Ham got real problems. Speaking of real problems, Spurs. This is brilliant, because everything I said, I think on the last Prem review before the World Cup, it's all just come true. And Conte agrees with me, and I'm a Conte dick sucker, right? Like, I loved him as a player, love him as a manager. I'm biased towards Italians, like, just in general as managers. I'll always give him extra credit. But he agrees with everything I said in the Prem review, because after they lost here to Villa at home, which is a diabolically bad result, he did this quote, right? I've got it here in front of me. He said, "We understand very well that the league will be really, really difficult for us, right? Well, we have to try and recover all the injured players." And yeah, they got some injuries, but you know, we'll come to that in a second. And then we have to know that in every game we have to fight and show that we are strong. I want to be honest. I want to be very clear. I have said this to the club. I have said my opinions. The fans deserve the best. Maybe to stay in 5th is the best. Maybe 6th. Maybe 7th. 5th or 4th is the best. And then he also said in the same part of our interview, he said we don't have creative players. He said we don't have creative players. And what was I talking about? Everyone's talking about Spurs, like, because you don't realise that when they batter a team, it's because Kane, Son, and Kulusevski just dominate in that fucking part of the park. And, you know, Benton Kerr will win the ball, maybe Højbjerg, but typically Benton Kerr, and they just play in their opponent's half. And that works. If they have that fundamental breakdown where Kulusevski's not an outlet and Bentancur's not there, and Son is coming back from surgery, don't forget, they're a fucking ordinary team. And they're an ordinary team because previous managers, even Poch, right, bought garbage. They come into this game, no Kulusevski, no Richarlison, no Bentancur, right? And their midfield is so dead creatively. Perisic was probably their best midfielder this game against Villa, right? Like, I want to know, how bad does your midfield have to be get done by Douglas Luiz? How fucking shit does your midfield have to be to make Douglas Luiz, you know, look like fucking Messi? Like, how bad? Because Douglas Luiz had 92% passing accuracy with 68 touches in the midfield. And I want to say this, Bissouma, he's a fucking fraud. What a bum. Like, I would not tolerate that at all. Like, Bissouma, this game, he gave the ball away. He didn't track. He didn't chase. He didn't create anything. Garbage. Absolute garbage. And, you know, you just can't get away with that. It's the fucking Prem. You can't get away with giving a ball away and then, like, well, I'm just not gonna chase. I'm gonna skip this one out, am I? Their midfield it's much like Liverpool, essentially what we're talking about. When your midfield is dysfunctional, everything else falls apart. It's too important. And as I said, Perisic was the best of a bad bunch today, but like Højbjerg was fucking trash. I mean, like Sessegnon non-existent. Like Bissouma a bum-suma. It was just bad. It was just bad. And they're on their worst defensive run since 1988. Remember as well, the Brentford game on Boxing Day, they had to come back from behind. But they've now conceded 2 goals in 7 consecutive matches, which is the first time they've done that since 1988. So their defence is obviously being put under pressure. I mean, they've dropped Dyer again, which, fine. But the bottom line is, like, it's like I say, if you get no protection from your midfield, you're going to leak goals. Unless your defence is absolutely mustard, which of course it isn't. It's Tottenham. So the midfield is the problem. And as I said, if they're not attacking, Spurs have problems. Big problems. And no Bentancur to mix things up in the middle of the park. And I don't think he's a world beater. So, yeah. I mean, look, I should probably talk about Villa more in this game. And this was obviously Emery's best performance since he took over. But you know what? Nah. I like fuck talking about Villa. So, whatever. Anyway, Chelsea Forest 1-1. This was a draw. Chelsea, man. Yeah, we're a Graham Potter fucking propaganda channel, for sure. But here's the problem. They've got an injury list like you wouldn't fucking believe, right? So, against Forest here, yeah, they've dropped points against Forest, right? They've got no Kante, right? That's huge in and of itself. And N'Golo Kante is like just the fucking god-tier midfielder. No Reece James, obviously. They bought Fofana, got injured immediately. No Fofana. No Chilwell. No Mendy in goal, which isn't the end of the word because obviously Kepa's in that. So no Loftus-Cheek, who, you know, you can go back and forth on him. Everyone's got their own opinions. But the bottom line is there's some huge names that are out there for Chelsea. And keep in mind, this wasn't even Potter's team to begin with. Potter had to tinker a little bit. He had to get Ranieri on the motherfucker, you know, and think about, like, which players am I going to pick? Who's going to go where? Which ones do I like? Blah, blah, blah. I'll also just add as well, like, before we get into the actual minutiae of the result, remember, Aubameyang came back because he thought he was going to play with Tuchel, his boy from Dortmund again. Tuchel not there. And I just think this is like a dead move. Like, Chelsea let so much striking talent go out the door, then didn't sign a striker. And I've said it, like, if they had Giroud in this team, like, it's a very different season. if they kept Fat Lukaku, like it's even then they would have been better off. They were so overconfident in names that they let go out, and they spent money on building a backline which they don't even have now, and there's no goal threat. There's no goal threat in a Chelsea team, you know. Anyway, I watched this game and dreadful. Like 72% possession for Chelsea, 2 shots on target against Forest. Like, that's fucking criminal. It's absolutely criminal. I thought at the back, like, a lot of people really like Silva. I get it. He was probably Chelsea's best player here overall. Koulibaly really fucking struggled in this game. Had a lot of mistakes and against Forest, you know, this is not like the best. So, I don't know, Chelsea for me, I said Graham Potter coming in, it was going to be tough. The way the board did it, it was all wrong. They backed Tuchel to the hill, let him spend all that money, bought all the players Tuchel wanted, replaced Tuchel, and told Graham Potter, get on with it. And they're not gonna make any signings, I don't think, in the transfer window. I mean, they need a striker for me. Aubameyang is not gonna get it done. Forest with a point here, but I mean, it's Forest. So let's be real. I still think I've said it before. Their scattershot approach in the transfer market hasn't impressed me at all, and I still think they're going down. Anyway, the last one in this bumper Prem review before I have to fucking pause, watch some games, spend a day, and then do another Prem review. Brentford, Liverpool. This is the one to end on. I mean, just embarrassing. Embarrassing. Sam hit me up and said they're just they're a bunch of bums. He was disappointed. Everyone's disappointed. We saw in this as well, like, you know, Harvey Elliott made a crucial mistake. One of those guys I'm talking about coming through that probably not quite good enough for Liverpool. Fans all love him, or he's still got to develop a little bit. But it's all like, Brentford absolutely destroyed Liverpool. Like, I can't explain it to you, right? They did it without Ivan Toney. And Bomo, this game, was so fucking good. Wissa just behind him. Pressure from the front. Constant pressure on set pieces. Remember, I think Brentford had 2 goals disallowed in this game. 2 fucking goals disallowed by VAR. And they still won 3-1. And it was weird because Klopp, even though Klopp said, oh, I'm not happy with the display from Liverpool. I mean, obviously, who the fuck would be? You know, Oxlade-Chamberlain on the fucking score sheet. Well done. Another guy that, like, you know, he's playing for Liverpool, I guess. Okay. But he also said, and it's like, come on, Klopp, man, you're better than this. And he likes to whine, you know, but every manager does. But this was pathetic. He said, like, oh, Brentford bend the rules, and because they're a smaller team, they get away with it against the bigger teams. Like, don't get me fucking started, Klopp, on some of the shit that's gone on with you. Don't get me started with Liverpool, and don't get me started about the Newcastle game earlier on in this season, where it was just fucking play until you score. You know, you've had some unbelievable decisions this season. You know, like, big clubs get more. Everybody knows this. In the Prem, big clubs get more decisions than small clubs every single time. And you cannot complain about the system if it goes against you. And I don't even know what he thought went against him. VAR bailed him out twice. I mean, accurately, it wasn't like VAR was wrong. It wasn't, like, controversial. But, you know, VAR bailed you out twice. What rules does he think they're bending? Like, what rules? Like, specifically let me know, because I saw nothing wrong with this. I just saw a tired, beleaguered Liverpool who were not up for this game at all. I saw a midfield that was absolutely fucking lightweight. I saw defenders getting intimidated by strikers. I saw wayward passes. I saw an own goal. You know, like, what the fuck are we talking about? Kanate, by the way, once absolutely, like, this cannot be the standard. Like, I mean, what the fuck was he doing? So, an own goal, super unlucky. Although, for me, he switched off at a set piece, but you can make your own decisions on that one. Lightweight, knocked off the ball, looking for a free kick, feeling sorry for himself. You know, nonsense. And, yeah, just, you know, that's not good enough. That's not good enough. That's the story of Liverpool season right now. Like, the players you think are going to perform, like, sort of don't. The midfield is tired. They had no Henderson here, if memory serves me correct. And so, yeah, they're just dysfunctional. It's just dysfunctional. It was like Elliott, Simicast, you know, like fucking Kate, I think, came on, Fabinho. Like, this is, come on, guys, like, it's fucking poor. But anyway, like, I'll just say, like, as well, the worst, it goes from bad to worse. What does Liverpool season look like now? You know, obviously, in total, they've dropped 23 points, I think it is, this season. And then it turned out Van Dijk got injured and they thought it was just a knock. Well, it's come out literally today, just before I recorded this. Van Dijk might be out for a long time. And then if you take Van Dijk out of the Liverpool team, holy fucking shit, what are we talking about now? So, yeah. I can't see Liverpool getting top four. I just can't. I think it's going to be a long slog. It's one of those transformational seasons. I think they're sixth by virtue of other teams having their own problems. Chelsea, we just talked about. Tottenham probably going to lose a few more games. There's a pack of teams behind Liverpool right now that are hungry, playing good football. Brentford are one of them. Brighton's another. You probably... I don't know. I mean, I don't know who's going to break away from the rest of the pack. But look, put it this way. If I was to look at, like, can Liverpool finish ahead of United? Definitely not. So, I mean, look, Liverpool have got problems this season. And we all know it. I think Klopp's going to right the ship. I wouldn't fire him. But this result, I mean, Liverpool have had some criminally embarrassing results this season. But this is probably one of the worst. Historic win for Brentford. Just to add to that, I think, honestly, like, I'm super happy for fucking Thomas Frank. I think he's a guy who, Brentford have been a breath of fresh air in the Prem, and people forget where they come from to even be in the Prem in the first place under this guy, which is why when people were talking about him getting shit canned, it was absolute madness. Remember as well, as I said, this result achieved without their top scorer Ivan Toney, and yeah, like fucking Brentford, they're a joy to watch. Like, I like watching Brentford play football. Win or lose, you get a game with Brentford. So anyway, there you go. Less of a game with Liverpool. So that's this bumper Prem review, which is going to get us caught up until tomorrow, and then I'm going to have to watch some games and record some games, and hopefully Griff can get these edited out, so we're sort of on top. But just to end on that note, yeah, it's going to be hard to stay up to date and get these out in a timely fashion during this, thick and fast period. But hopefully by, like, the 15th, we'd be on point to get these out a couple of days after the games. So just bear with us while we do. And obviously we're going to have a look and see where my predictions are at, the halfway point of the season very soon, probably on a live stream, which are going to be starting up again now that I'm out of the festive period and feeling better because I had a bit of man flu over the festive period. You probably still hear it. Anyway, there you go. Prem review. You've had your Prem review. We'll see you on the next one in a couple of days. And hope you had a great new year and a great festive period. And welcome back for 2023, which is going to be a bumpy year of content. So, see ya.